Yeah, this had to be the most annoying week in my life. After not seeing or hearing from my family since last Thanksgiving, they've been blowing up my phone about my older sister's wedding, which I have no interest in being a part of. You guys might be a bit confused right now, so let me start with the proper introduction. I'm Tristan, 28, and if it wasn't clear until now, I do not have a good relationship with my family. Growing up, and even up until now, my older sister Gemma was always the favorite child. My parents called her their miracle baby, because they had over 2 years of infertility challenges before she was finally born. For the first few months of her life, no one else was even allowed to touch her or hold her. My parents filled our house with a bunch of unnecessary clothing, shoes, and toys, most of which were never even used. So, when I was born, I ended up with a lot of girl clothes and hand-me-down toys, even though they knew long before I was born that I'd be a boy. See, Gemma was 4 when I was born, and my parents were still obsessed with her. My younger sister, Macy, was a complete surprise. She arrived when I was barely 2 and just got about the same treatment. She got hand-me-downs upon hand-me-downs of whatever toys Gemma was not interested in anymore. We also spent way more time with our grandparents than we did at home. Gemma, she got jealous when Mom and Dad gave me and Macy too much attention, so they would pack us up and send us over to our gramps. Well, so they could have a Gemma Day. That's right, they even named it Gemma Day. It happened twice or something, maybe thrice per week. They would take Gemma out to the park for ice cream or to a movie or something, and we would spend the entire time with our grandparents. Mind you, it's not like Macy and I were big kids at the time. I was 5 and she was 3, and they were already finding every excuse to get rid of us. And when they could not, they would have Gemma babysit us. Gosh, I hated that because she made our lives miserable with her stupid demands and made us do all the chores while she rested and ordered around us like a queen. Don't even get me started on birthdays. Gemma's 18th birthday fell on the same day as her graduation, and our parents threw her a massive party. They even sent her off to some fancy-pantsy design school in California. And when she flunked her first semester, they just paid for her to take the classes again. My parents sunk an insane amount of money into her schooling, and she never even graduated. Meanwhile, most of the time our parents would forget my and Macy's birthdays. And when they'd remember, they either took us out to dinner at some mid-restaurant or ordered pizza and rented a movie. Thankfully, Macy and I had our grandparents by our side. They would make sure that we got something for our birthday when our parents forgot. The one thing Macy and I had going for us was doing extremely well in school. We both fought real hard to get a full ride to a university of our choice because we knew our parents would probably send us off to a community college if they had to pay for it. You would think things would get better now that we're all adults, but no, our parents still don't respect us. When Gemma came home from college, she wanted to start some business, so she took over my room to use as storage. I had to take all of my stuff up to the attic and sleep in there whenever I came back for the holidays. Macy's room was full of her crap, and the moment I was able to get a place of my own, I moved out and took Macy with me. She was still in university and could not help pay rent, but I didn't care. Anything was better than suffering with our parents and Gemma. They wouldn't even help her with food or books and said that she could just find the books online and take lunch from home. I've been low contact with my family for a while, but the incident that sparked it happened around 5 years ago. My grandfather passed away, and when it came time to read the will, my parents and Gemma were shocked and upset that he left them nothing. He willed me his vintage Rolls Royce, and Macy 2 of his old Rolex watches. And Gemma just cried during this will reading, saying that she could have used something to help kickstart her new business. By this time, she was on her 5th business venture, and my parents could not help her fund anything more because my father had gotten into an accident and got a nasty head injury. He even suffered some cognitive decline as a result and could not work anymore, so he was forced into early retirement. My dad made the majority of the money in the house and paid most of the bills. But now they had to rely on my mom's income and whatever they had in savings to get by. Gemma lived with them but refused to get a regular job and help them out. My parents even tried to guilt Macy into giving up one of the watches so Gemma would not, quote, feel left out. But she refused. So they came to me and tried to get me to give up the car or sell it and help Gemma with her business. They said I didn't care about cars and would not drive it anyways, so I may as well, quote, put it to good use. I told them no to their faces, but that did not stop them from bothering me and even going to my poor grandma while she was still grieving to get her to convince me. That's basically where I drew the line. I've been no contact with Gemma and low contact with my parents since then. I only see them during Thanksgiving because we have dinner at my grandma's house and I don't want to disappoint her. Macy now lives 2 hours away and works for a pharmaceutical company, but I still live and work nearby as a software developer. Last Thanksgiving, where I first met Gemma's then-boyfriend, now fiancé, Evan. He seemed nice enough, though a bit quiet and shy. All the guys that she dated before had been lawyers and business owners, and Evan was not poor by any means, but he certainly was not rich. A modest middle-class family man. He also took care of his parents, and he seemed to be the polar opposite of my sister. Didn't care about keeping up appearances or having the latest of anything. Well, I know that Gemma has always been wanting to get married. A good chunk of her jobs have been wedding-related, planning, coordinating, etc. And I don't know if she actually loves this guy or if she's just in love with the idea of being a wife. But what do I know? I mean, maybe this guy really swept her off her feet. Anyways, a week ago I got the news from my grandma that Gemma and Evan were engaged and they're planning on a wedding. I figured all of this would have nothing to do with me because I had not spoken to Gemma in years. Even during Thanksgiving, I say nothing to her. Macy usually asks how she's doing, but that's it. So, imagine my surprise when I get a call from my mother a week ago asking if I would hear the great news. First of all, my mom never calls me. The only time I can remember was when Macy moved in with me and Gemma accused her of stealing something of hers. I don't even know how she got my number. She tells me that they're getting started on the wedding planning and because Gemma wants to get already married in about 6 months' time. She said that the whole family was pitching in to help because Evan and Gemma did not have enough money to fund the wedding by themselves. Well, I told her that's great and wished them well, but she said that she wants me to contribute to the wedding and that Macy had already agreed to give some money. I hadn't heard it from Macy myself, but I knew that was not true. I told my mom that I was not contributing anything to this wedding, not even my presence, and hung up on her. Afterward, I called Macy to ask if Mom had talked to her, and she said that our mother and even our father had tried to hound her into contributing to Gemma's wedding too. We agreed that neither of us would budge. They needed us more than we needed them. And then, guys, 5 minutes ago, my father called me to ask if I was going to write a check for Gemma because she would already pick out her dress and venue. He said it would mean a lot to old Gemma if we helped make her dream wedding a reality. I told him I was not contributing and I'm not talking about this again. If they wanted to give Gemma her dream wedding, they need to figure it out themselves. But here's where I'm torn. My parents must have gotten into my grandmother's head because yesterday she rang my phone. She said me and Macy should at least contribute a little something, even if it's just drinks for the reception. She thinks it would be nice if we put aside our difference and try to hear each other out, because our family's always been a little broken. She knows it's not our fault or mine or Macy's, but she would like it if we at least got along better. I know my grandma's being sincere, and speaking from a place of love, she always hated that me and Macy had such a horrible relationship with my parents and Gemma. But I still don't know if I should actually help my family or not. I mean, this is what brings me here posting, since I could actually use some outsiders' opinions on all this. It would be great. So, what do you guys think? Am I taking this too far by refusing to even go to Gemma's wedding? Should I use this as an opportunity to mend my relationship with my family, or are we too far gone? What's up, everybody? So, I do want to read this one comment before we hop into the first update. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, guys. Here it is, comment number 1 that says, hey, to me, I don't know. It just sounds like you have middle child syndrome. I agree with your grandmother that you all need to stop this petty squabbling, and it sounds like you want to keep your relationship with your family in the gutter, because you love complaining about them, flaunting your wealth in their face and feeding your superiority complex. You won't even try for the sake of Grandma, whom you claim to have a good relationship with. Your grandmother is right. Y'all need to get in some family counseling and sort this mess out. You don't want to see your parents on their deathbed and regret never having a proper relationship now, do you? Guys, let me know what you think about that comment. Drop it down below, and don't forget to subscribe. The first update is coming at you right about now. Update number 1. While I appreciate all the feedback you guys offered in the comments, I think you all have a warped sense of how bad my relationship with my parents and my sister truly is. No amount of family counseling is going to fix almost 30 years of neglect, and my parents don't want to fix it. They see absolutely nothing wrong with the way that they treated me and Macy, and neither does Gemma. They just justify their neglect by saying me and Macy were low maintenance and did not need much, and they still think that. This leads me to what happened this week. So, a couple days ago, I get a call from my grandma inviting me over to dinner at her place on the weekend. No big deal. Macy and I go over to Grandma's for dinner all the time. That's what I was expecting, and that's not what I got. When I arrived at my grandmother's house and saw my dad's car parked out front, I wanted to turn around and go home. But I saw Macy's car on the curb, and I could not leave her alone there. When I got inside, everybody was already in the dining room. My grandma, she pulled me aside and told me that she mentioned to my mom that we were having dinner at her house and they just showed up. She didn't have the heart to tell them to leave, and I didn't want to cause a scene, so I didn't tell them to leave either. The dinner was very awkward for a while because nobody was talking, until my mom started asking Gemma about her wedding plan. That's when I realized this was a trap. Gemma went on and on about how everything was so expensive. And as soon as she said she was a bride, people would hike the price up. She said that she did not know how she and Evan are going to afford the wedding, and my mom said that she'd asked me and Macy for help, since it was the least that we could do. And then she proceeds to ask us to contribute $10,000 each, just to help pay for Gemma's wedding, which sounds like we would be footing the entire bill. Macy asked her if she was losing her mind because there's no way that they were contributing that kind of cash for a wedding neither of us even wanted to go to. Then my parents proceeded to try to guilt trip us by saying Gemma used to babysit us, gave us all her hand-me-downs, and made sure that we stayed out of trouble. Yeah, that's bullcrap. That girl would torture us, and I told my mom that she was delusional if she thought I was putting a cent towards this wedding. Gemma and her husband not being able to afford it is not my problem. They all started to straight up yell at me and Macy. They called us selfish and ungrateful and said that, they should have kicked us out of the house once we turned 18. They said that we were always throwing how much money we made in their face during Thanksgiving but could not be bothered to spend a dime just to help our sister have her dream wedding. Even Grandma chimed in to tell them that they weren't being fair and that we did not owe Gemma anything, especially not $10,000. Me and Macy ended up leaving the dinner early. My parents have been blowing up my phone nonstop, and I'm tempted to block them, but I'll just make them show up at my place. Wish me luck. It's going to be a long, long week. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's been a few days since my last update, and I'm here to fill you in on the developments of the sitch. Macy and I have formulated a plan. Our parents have not stopped nagging us, mostly my mother, actually. She seems to think Gemma is entitled to our money because she babysat us a few times in our life. I'll maintain that, yes. Anyways, Macy and I do make good money, but that's in spite of our upbringing, not because of it. So here's what we did. Macy and I told our mother that we would help with the wedding. Of course, she was over the moon and said that she was glad me and Macy had finally come to our senses. We told her that we'd stop by on the weekend just to drop the money off, and our grandma got the wind of this and asked if we had change of heart. I lied and told her yes, because while I love her, she's a bit talkative and I didn't want our plans to be ruined. My mom told me to write my check to the company that was handling the venue and catering for Gemma's wedding, which I agreed to. Apparently, they were going there the day that we would drop off the checks to pay for it, and now, before all you get mad, we didn't say how we would help or how much money we would offer, so we each wrote a check for $1. I put mine in the nicest envelope I could find, and Macy and I met up at our parents' house that Saturday. It was the first time that we've been there since we moved out, and the place was full of boxes of Gemma's stuff. If she sold all the crap she wasn't using anymore, heck, she might even be able to afford the wedding on her own. Anyways, we handed off the checks to our mother, and we did not even get a thank you. Not from her, not from Jim. I asked how much Evan is putting towards the wedding, and they tell me he's doing his best. As far as I know, $20,000 is more than enough to pay for a wedding. I was out running errands later in the day and my phone was blowing up. I have over 100 missed calls from 7 different numbers, and when I got home I found a bunch of voicemails from my mother. She was yelling about how they got kicked out of the venue by the owners and were told not to come back because the owners thought Gemma was trying to scam them with a $1 check. She could not believe I would stoop so low to humiliate her and my sister. The whole time she was saying this, I could hear Gemma crying in the background. It sounded like they were driving. My mom was saying that she never wanted to see me or Macy again, and that we were horrible children, and even worse siblings, and that both my parents were ashamed of our behavior, and she was going to make sure that we regret what we did. I spoke to Macy, and she got the same spiel from our mom. Mom even called Grandma to rant at her because she thought our grandmother was the one who told us to do this. And even though Mom said she didn't want anything to do with us anymore, I have a strong feeling that this is not over. And honestly, whatever my parents and Gemma intend on doing, I want no part of it. But I guess we'll just have to see what happens next. Update number 3. So, my mom and Gemma have completely gone nuclear. For the past week, they've been slandering my name and Macy to the family and all over social. At first I didn't care, and did not give her tantrums any attention, but now it's starting to get ugly. First off, they led and said Macy and I promised to give them $10,000 each, just to handle the cost of the wedding. Not so. All I said was I would write her a check. My mom and Gemma have posted the story all over several platforms, and now family members are harassing me and Macy. I've gotten all kinds of hateful calls and texts, and I've gotten uninvited to the parties and celebrations which I really wanted to be a part of. They've really made me out to be some social pariah, and it's honestly getting to my head because everywhere I go, people are giving me the judgy eye and commenting on how I'm an ungrateful brat. That's not even the worst of it. I was at work today and got called into a meeting by Human Resources. Because of my mom's little social media tantrum, people were calling my job, slandering me, saying that they'd never buy or use our products again. I checked my mom's social media and saw her rallying her boomer friends to contact my job and try to get me fired. I spent an hour explaining to HR and my boss that my mom was just being unreasonable because I would not give her $10,000. Thankfully, I'm very good at my job. It would be more of an inconvenience to fire me than to field a few angry complaints, and I just promised them I would sort out my social life. So now I have to do damage control, and I can't believe my mom and Gemma would stoop so low that it might have cost me a job. Just to think that my dad is supporting all this is outrageous. I talked to Macy earlier this evening, and she said that they've been calling her job too. But she's a chemist in a laboratory. They don't care because their customers are doctors in hospitals, not angry, chronically online idiots. She said that she would help me with exposing our mom and sister, and Grandma also promised to vouch for us. You know, Macy, she sent me a whole bunch of screenshots of text and a bunch of voicemails that she's gotten from our mom and Jim. I combined those with mine and spent the whole night writing up a post to clear my name. I had screenshots of these texts where my mom explicitly said I should give the $10,000. Screenshots of her insulting me when I said I wouldn't. Voice messages and you name it of insult after insults to me and Macy. I posted it all and sent a link to the post in our family group, and also texted it to the head of HR. It's currently 3 a.m. and I just got in bed. I'm exhausted, but I'm praying that tomorrow will be over. I've already decided to go completely no contact with my parents because I'm done. Final updates. Update number 4. Oh boy, the tables have turned. It's been a few days and now quite a lot has gone down. My phone has been blowing up again, but this time with apologies. The family has basically turned their backs on my mom and Gemma, and my post on Facebook took off and people are commenting on how awful my family and especially my mother has treated me and my sister. It's been a very validating feeling. I've not seen nor heard from my mother since, and I did block her on everything, but that has not stopped her from showing up at my place in the past. I did see her trying to defend herself by saying I told her over the phone that I was going to pay for the venue and catering, but it was her word versus my receipts. Well, that's not even the craziest thing that happened. Evan, Gemma's fiancé, contacted me and Macy saying he wants to talk. We met for lunch yesterday, and I was not prepared for what he told us. So, Evan is pretty much solely responsible for his parents. He has a sister who lives a few states away, but she has 3 children and can't really spare any money. But both of his parents are retired and their pension isn't enough to keep up with their expenses. He pays all their bills and buys groceries on top of taking care of his own. Any extra money he earns is going towards a house. When he and Gemma got engaged, he told Gemma while he wanted to get married, he didn't want to spend a bunch of money on a wedding and would much rather elope. You know, Gemma was the one that was insistent on having a huge, fairy tale style wedding, and even tried to guilt him into using his savings, and he refused, saying that he wasn't going to choose a party over a house. Evan told her that if she wants her dream wedding so badly, she would have to find a way to pay herself. At this point, he knew that our parents did not make a lot of money, and that she did not have a good relationship with me and Macy. So when she agreed to his terms, he was a little weirded out. But he didn't question it. He thought maybe our parents had a fund or something that she could use. He had no idea that Jimmy was trying to bully us into paying for her wedding until he saw my post. Whenever he'd asked about it, she would just say that she and Mom were working it out. He was completely ashamed at both her and my mom's behavior, calling them entitled, and told us it was not our job to foot the bill for their wedding. And you know the funny part? Evan has gone and broke off the engagement, called off the wedding because of Jim's crazy antics. He told us how he could not get married to a lying, manipulative witch like Gemma. He even thanked us for revealing her true colors and intentions before it's too late. I was actually happy we were able to help this guy out, because otherwise he would have been stuck in his sham of a marriage based on a lie. After Evan called the wedding off, my parents and Gemma tried to reach us, with Gemma crying and cursing about how we were the reason for her breakup. But honestly, neither me nor Macy could care much about it, and we've continued ignoring them, and they've been blocked everywhere. This seems to have gotten them to leave us alone. The last I heard, Gemma had a falling out with our parents as well, because she was fighting with them about how they cannot even give her the wedding of her dreams. So much of a golden child, am I right? I guess it's my parents' karma to have their favorite child turn against them when they actually need somebody to take care of them, since my father's condition at this point is not good. If only they would have treated us with even a bit of love that they had for Gemma, things would have been so different for them, but they had to play favorites, so here they are. As for Gemma, she's trying to find a job for herself, now that she's on her own, and she's utterly failing at it because she doesn't have a proper education or experience for a well-paying job, so right now she's just stuck, shifting from one menial job to the other. Yeah, anyways, I'm just glad that me and Macy are far away from all of this mess. Her and Grandma are the only family I have left, and I honestly don't mind, because I wouldn't have it any other way. I guess that's all from me. Thank you guys for the support throughout. Goodbye.